A warm welcome to everyone, and thank you for joining us for this session. My name is Ella Stockford-Sackville, and I'm part of the Women's Forum editorial team. I'm pleased to introduce a special session today where we will hear from two speakers who will share their call to action to build a more inclusive world. The session will follow a similar format to a TED-style talk, with each speaker making their pitch one by one. To follow and engage with the session on social media, please use the hashtags #Women4Inclusion, #WFGM20. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first pitch speaker, Farah Pandith, former senior US diplomat, author, and senior fellow of Harvard Kennedy School. Farah, over to you.
Thank you, and good morning. I believe that inclusion equals innovation. Exclusion, the opposite of inclusion, we've tried for a very long time. And I think you would agree that it's not working out so well for humanity. I remember shortly after 9/11, I was sitting around a policy table in Washington, D.C. at the US Department of State, where I was working on engagement with Muslim communities. And as you can imagine, the protocols at the Department of State require us to be thinking very strategically about who is at that policy table. It's a pretty exclusive table. I was sitting there, I was the only woman, and we were trying to brainstorm ideas on how to stop young people from joining a terrorist group, Al-Qaeda. So the ideology of hate and extremism was on our minds, and we were trying to do everything that we could to think about new ideas. We had brought in terrorism experts to help us try to understand what was happening and how to stop the appeal. They were all men. As I looked around the table, I saw a group of passionate scholars and policy people who had the right pedigree, who had the right backgrounds, and seemingly were the right people to be sitting at that table. Like today's virus, the ideology of hate and extremism is invisible. And like the virus, it kills. And so we were urgently thinking about a new way to do this. Seemingly good ideas came forward, and we gave some a try. But something was missing. We weren't getting the whole picture. We were the same kinds of people looking at the same situation the same way with the same toolkit. Has that ever happened to you when you keep trying to do the same thing over and over again and you realize you're not getting a new result? That was the moment I realized that the policy choices that we were making, the solution set had to be changed radically. We had to bring new kinds of people around the policy table, and so we did. We brought new thinkers, faith leaders, community activists, educators, and others who could help us think about this issue in a new way. We also brought former extremists, former IRA, former FARC to help us think out of the box. And do you know what happened? Divergent ideas, new perspectives, out-of-the-box concepts, bold new ideas. Ideas that were radical innovations that we needed to vanquish the threat. Because of these different kinds of people and their interesting ideas, we seeded the first-of-a-kind programs around the world to stop kids from joining groups like Al-Qaeda. We forged new alliances with NGOs that had never worked together. We built networks of like-minded thinkers and former extremists whose narratives were really important to the work that we were doing. They were credible, they were legitimate. We forged a new global consciousness about the power of local solutions activated by civil society in new ways. And this helped other nations with expanding their soft power toolkit. And it offered a platform for the new threats that were coming ahead. Inclusivity equals innovation. So why aren't we using this formula everywhere? We're in a sacred moment, a sacred time. The world has stopped. We are experiencing the pain of COVID together. I'm here in the East Coast of the United States, and from where I am to the shores of the Mediterranean and beyond, we are imagining a world without COVID, without fear. We're imagining what it would feel like not to wear a mask, run down the street and hail a cab, or hug a friend, or have a cup of coffee together. But while we imagine what that will be like, and the promise of that time ahead, we have a powerful gift right now. Together, We have an opportunity to reflect on our systems, the systems that we have built as humans, much like we did at the Department of State. Are they working? Are we thriving? Has this exclusive world a way of being, of solving, of designing, given us the solutions to climate change, migration, access to education? Has this inclusivity led to dynamic and evolved solutions? I think we all know the answer to that question. Exclusive systems aren't working. Exclusivity has led to divided societies, to the prominence of the same ideas by the same people in the same way. It's led to a lack of inspiration. It's led to unsolved problems. It's led to a different kind of lockdown. It's led to competition rather than collaboration. So why do we keep doing the same things over and over again? We often use the moral argument for inclusion. It's the right thing to do. Diversity matters. It's important for a new consciousness of mankind. There's a business case for inclusion. There's a political case for inclusion. Of course, all of that is true. However, you know what? It's also a simple reality check. What we have now has failed us. In our exclusivity, we have lost the power of ideas. We have taken away the promise of innovation. We have a stalled system. So what is it going to take to reboot humankind? If 2020 has shown us anything, it's how fragile, but also how connected we are. In fact, some bright spots have happened because of that connectivity. Through our shared connectivity, there's a promise of a new virus. There's also a call for humanity across the world because of what we've seen. And whether you are at a Zoom table or a conference room table or a kitchen table or a policy table, we know that we can't solve problems without opening up the aperture to new perspectives and new experiences. We can't expect to fix societal sinkholes if we don't embark on radical inclusion. We won't find promising opportunities if we don't see them because we have only looked out one window. We can't become a world with less fear and more resilience if what we do, we have always done. It's time to rebuild how we conceive of a table and the people around it. Each one of us has a way to do this, big and small changes that can reboot our system if we do it together. It's not just about one election or a new press release on an ESG protocol. It is about how all of us design our actions deliberately. Each of you, a musician, an NGO leader, an entrepreneur, a tech guru, each of us has a role to play. Our collective communities are not one-dimensional, so why should our solution set be? What can you do now to work on a problem, whether that is giving nourishment to a community around you that doesn't have food? What can you do now to get out of your exclusive tribe to solve that problem? How do you make it possible for divergent voices to be heard? How do you engage with them even when their ideas seem so different? What do you do to build bridges to connect on a human level so that as you try to solve problems, you do so with mutual respect? In the work that I've done since 9/11, I have tried to find places of mutual interest with communities all over the world. I've experienced firsthand the importance of civil and compassionate conversations. Bringing new ideas is not always easy, but in bringing people together, great change can take place. It has prevented youth from joining hate groups. It has activated business to build resilient communities. It has brought people together to build global networks from Dublin to Dhaka to make change, and it has helped civil society connect with each other. In 2011, when I was working at the Department of State, I was the special representative to Muslim communities. And I worked with my colleague, Hannah Rosenthal, who was the envoy to combat and monitor anti-Semitism. And we saw that there was a threat of hate that was rising and we had to do something. And we launched a campaign called Hours Against Hate. We asked young people to donate an hour or more of their time for someone who didn't look like them, pray like them, love like them, or live like them. And do you know what happened? Through this global momentum, all kinds of things were seeded and activation happened. And in fact, it went so well that the London Olympics and Paralympics asked it to be part of their campaign. They, like you, know that small steps can make a difference. I urge you to be courageous, to be bold, to open up your aperture. I ask you to learn from someone that is outside of your silo. The exclusive world has failed us. We must reject it. The inclusion era is upon us, and it will help us build a stronger and more dynamic global system. The possibilities of a promising new era are at hand. I ask you to extend your hand, take another, and all of us together, all of us can create and build a new table. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Farah. Well, if that isn't a call to action, then I don't know what is. So I'm looking forward to making sure we can share that perfectly timed 10-minute pitch with as many people as possible. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to turn to our second pitch for today. Joining us, we have Christina Barrowizzi, national athlete and mechanical engineering student at Duke University, who is also undertaking a certificate in innovation and entrepreneurship. So Christina, the floor is yours.
Hello, my name is Christina Barrowizzi. I am honored to be back here again as part of this year's Women's Forum, bringing together rising talents, addressing major global problems and inclusive, sustainable solutions. Thank you for the invitation. Growing up in Lebanon, I have been very concerned by the number of people who suffer from hunger every year because they cannot afford food prices. I used to ask myself, how can I help others achieve food security? After traveling around the world and doing further research, I realized that this major national problem is a worldwide issue. In fact, according to the United Nations, every day, over 820 million people lack access to food worldwide. A reason behind this is that around 1.6 billion tons of food produced in the world is thrown away each year, enough to feed many of those who suffer from hunger. Such food waste also squanders scarce resources like water and energy and negatively impacts our ecosystem. The Food and Agriculture Organization estimates that the environmental, economic, and social cost of food waste is at $2.6 trillion per year. These figures clearly indicate inefficiencies in the world food system. Earlier this year, I started to address food deprivation as part of a team project for my innovation and entrepreneurial certificate at Duke University. The project, which I am currently developing into a future business startup, assumes that market solution and beneficial social outcomes must be seen as complementary and not mutually exclusive. My proposed solution is a global digital trading platform. The objective of this online application is to establish food supply chain visibility to allow each food industry actor, from farmers to producers, distributors, retailers, and ultimately consumers, to identify a range of purchasing options simultaneously from all available sellers. By quickly identifying a rise in demand through the platform, companies will respond with discounts and offers in order to offload excess food items with close expiry dates or unappealing packaging. Such strategies allow them to optimize inventory management, reduce food waste, and save money. Concurrently, consumers will benefit from a market made more abundant with accessible and affordable food. the more there are participants on the platform, the greater the number of offers and cost reduction to consumers. To help tackle factors leading to food loss, such as poor infrastructure, the app will promote investment opportunities for companies to improve their operations. For instance, a farm that cannot deliver its product due to a lack of adequate transportation may display on the app a call for a third-party investment to address this need. Such a farm would then be able to sell its product instead of throwing it away, reducing waste and financial loss. Food deprivation is a global problem that is sadly being exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. A digital supply chain platform is an innovative game changer that will ensure there is food on the table for everyone in the world, regardless of ability, class, religion, race, ethnicity, or any other differentiating characteristic. Ladies and gentlemen, making food accessible to all and alleviating the burden on our environment are societal issues of global proportions, too intractable for a single actor to solve. So I call on the support of concerned government agencies, inter- and non-governmental organizations, civil society, and the private sector, including those who have already made great strides on the subject, to join me to make the initiative an inclusive success for all. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you for that impassioned pitch to our audience. Well, this was the first of a great set of pitches, and we'll be hearing from a couple more participants over the course of today and tomorrow. So I implore all the audience to join in and tune in for those sessions as well. And without further ado, I'd just like to thank our wonderful speakers, Christina and Farah, for those contributions. Thank you to the audience for joining, and do feel free to reach out to Christina and Farah through the networking app if you'd like to continue the conversation with them. I'm sure they'd be delighted to do so. And we'll see you back next, the next set of sessions. If you just go back to the Women's Forum website, you can click on the live button for the next set of parallel sessions. Thank you so much, Farah, Christina, again. Have a wonderful rest of your day.